The next thing is the O authorization model, mechanisms by which a client can obtain a security token from an appropriate authority in order to use the token for authenticating a subsequent API call. That means authorization model actually specifies certain mechanisms through which a client can obtain a security token. In this case, the client do not have to send any password or any login credentials from his side, but rather he will obtain a security token from the appropriate authority in order to use the token for authenticating again and again. So mechanisms by which a client can present a security token as part of the API call in order to authenticate itself. So the authorization model is shown in this way. Actually, the client is there. First of all, one authorization server will be there. This authorization server will be used for the authentication of this particular client. So whether this client is genuine or not, that can be verified from the authorization server. Then according to the logged in credentials, if they are matching, then he is going to get a token. So then what he does is he uses that particular token, and accordingly he will request for the resource owner, that means that can be Google or any other resource provider, so that the resource server will be giving back the required information. So this is how the authorization model actually working with a diagrammatic overview. So the above distinction can be simply described as getting a token and using a token. These two logical halves of O-authorization are shown in the diagram, which is shown here. The client gets a token from the authorization server and then uses the token to authenticate the resource server. So these two are different servers. So authorization server can be Google and resource server can be Printfast. Otherwise, authorization server can be Picasa and resource server can be YouTube. So in that way, we can have the different servers which can be acting upon getting successfully authentication of a particular given user. Then building blocks of the authorization. There are some different components which we can see in this particular segregation of the components. First one is roles, second registration, tokens, profiles, authorization flows, grants, endpoints, request response parameters. So all these are making available the whatever the feature that we are discussing here. Okay, so that means the building blocks of the authorization model comprises of roles, registrations, profiles, grants, tokens, etc., etc. So we will learn what all these about. So first one is roles. Okay, so roles means if we revive the previous example of the Picasa with the printfast.com, the resource owner is the Picasa user. Okay, so that means whatever the photographs or whatever the resources are of the proprietorship of that particular client actually, and he is going to have the ownership on those resources, but actually that is being maintained by the Picasa. So that can be Picasa or that can be Instagram. So nowadays you can think of the Instagram as similar with the Picasa. Okay, so resource owner is the actual uh, hosting services provider where your photographs or whatever the videos or media is actually residing and they are getting maintained. Then resource server is again Picasa hosting. Okay, so that means ownership is lies with the client actually. The ownership is lies with the client means the customer, the user. Okay, then resource server means who is actually maintaining these resources. So the resources are being maintained by the Picasa, even though it is not the it is not being maintained by the owner. That means by the customers. The server will provide the hosting environment where you can upload the photographs or you can share the photographs from your dashboard. So all these facilities are being hosted by the Picasa hosting servers. Then a client. Client means this is a third party application. So actually, in this case, the client means it is having a different sense. So the client means actually the client is in the sense of the resource owner and the resource server. So it is not part of the either resource owner or it is not a part of the resource server. So they are entirely different. So they can be websites, they can be third-party resources, or there can be a different customer also. So what the client will be doing is, suppose that is a web application which wants to create a mashup built for the Picasa. Mashup means some combination of functionalities from here and there. Suppose you will be having some weather services which you want to integrate in your website. Similarly, you want to integrate the Instagram or Facebook profile pages into your website. So they can be considered as mashups. Okay, so the client in this case, the printfast.com is actually a client who is going to have the functionalities which are coming from the Picasa hosting servers. So they are called as clients. Then authorization server. Here in this case, the user is going to be authenticated by the Google servers. So in that way, we can have the resource owners, resource servers, authorization servers, and clients. Clients are nothing but third-party resources where they are going to get your customized profile information or customized photographs information uh, made available to them by using these authorization servers. So in that way, some predefined roles are there, and every role is important for accessing and presenting the data which is not of their ownership. So understanding the roles, resource owner, an entity capable of granting access to the protected resource. When the resource owner is a person, it is referred as end user or the customer. So resource owner means, suppose you are going to give the access to the printfast.com for your photographs, then you will become the resource owner. Then resource server means the server hosting protected resources. That means the Instagram or Picasa.com in this example, it will become the resource server, where it is going to have all the resources which are protected, and they will actually expose a API so that you can request some data. They can be the photographs, they can be videos, calendars, contacts, or some profile information. So anything which is residing at their end, they can be shared only upon having the access tokens. Okay, so in that way the server is actually ready. So in that way the resource server is actually ready. Only thing is it wants to get authenticated by means of the access tokens. Now there is a client also, an application making protected resource requests on behalf of the resource owner. That means as soon as you logged into the printfast.com, it is actually exposing three interfaces. One is Instagram, one is Facebook, one is youtube.com. Suppose you have selected the Instagram, then what it actually doing is on your behalf, that means on the resource owner behalf, it is actually making a request to the authorization server. Okay, so there the client has to validate for the ownership of this particular resource. Okay, so that means he has to successfully log into that. Maybe that can be Facebook or that can be Instagram. So after successful authentication is done, then accordingly the access tokens are getting released by the authorization server. These access tokens are served to the resource server, and by checking with these access tokens, the API can release the photographs, videos, calendars, or contacts or profiles or anything else. So in that way all these are interconnected. So resource owner is also important, resource server, client, authorization server, all these are important, and how they actually communicate amongst themselves. First of all, the client, that means the mashup provider, will be making a request, that is an authorization request, to the resource owner. Now the resource owner is going to be successfully validated if he is going to given the right credentials, then accordingly the authorization grant will be provided to the client. Then using that authorization grant, the client is now going to make a call to the authorization server. Okay, so after this authorization grant will be making a request to the authorization server, and wherein the authorization server is going to release a token. So now by accessing this access token, the client finally, what it does is it is going to send the request for getting the resources by using this access token. And accordingly, after verifying the access token by the client, the resource server can judge whether to release the protected resource or to simply deny. So in that way, the resource server is going to be coming into the picture first time. Then accordingly, the authorization server making the verification, and as soon as the verification is done, the access tokens are being released. After releasing those access tokens, the client is going to make a new request to the resource server, and finally, if everything is matching, the protected resource, that can be media or that can be anything, so it will be released finally to the client. So in that way, the protocol is actually communicating between different components of these, between these different roles of the authorizations. Okay, so client is there, resource owner is there, authorization server is there, and resource server is also there. So client profiles, OAuth supports three client types. One is server-side web integration, and user agent based application, then native application. There are different kinds of client communications that we can make. Suppose server side web application means client is a server hosting the client application. Okay, so client is actually a different server, like in the case of the printfast.com. Okay, so printfast.com is a server hosting the printfast services. So when accessed by the resource owner, client application makes API calls using appropriate programming language. Secret or access tokens are not exposed to the user. Okay. Then client requires repetitive access to protected resources. So you might have heard the JWT tokens. Okay. So the web tokens are getting released once you make a first time communication with any authorization server. So accordingly, those tokens are going to be reused for making the further communication with the resource providers. So in that way, the client profile can be like a server-side web application, or it can be a user agent-based application. User agent-based application means JavaScript, Flash plugins, or any browser extensions. So they are part of the user agent applications. That means they are entirely working from the client side actually. So this is actually working from the server side, and this is entirely dealing with the client side. So we can see Flash plugins can be there, browser extensions can be there, and protocol data and credentials are easily accessible and often visible to the resource owner. So there is no concern on token leakage to entrusted users and applications. Suppose this is having all the credentials automatically available to it. So thereby there is no concern of the token leakage because it is actually integrated into the user agent itself. Or there can be some native applications also. Okay, so OAuth client is installed and executed on the resource owner device. Protocol data and credentials are accessible to the resource owner. Possible limitations on use of the web browser and its users. So native applications means you might be having the mobile applications, mobile apps actually. So they are actually completely native applications. So that means the application is actually installed on that particular device, and the application is given by the resource, given by the resource provider itself. So that's why. So these are having some different implementations for client accessibility. Client accessibility means the third-party resources can be categorized in these different ways. One is completely on the server-side implementation, one is completely on the client-side implementation, one is for the native kind of application generation. Then tokens. OAuth protocol supports bearer tokens. Once authorized, using bearer token, client can request to access a resource. So everything depends on these tokens. So what is a bearer token? This is a security token which is in possession of the token, can use the token in any way that any other party in possession of it can which requiring bearer to present proof of possession. So that means, suppose to understand easily in a simple example way, suppose you have gone to a restaurant, okay, so there you are going to get the token for your breakfast, or some, you want to take some sandwich or some snack items, okay. So first you have to go to the counter, then you have to pay the bill, whatever the bill is for that. Then he is going to give a token. So what the cashier is going to give is nothing but a simple piece of paper wherein it is written as some 50 rupees or 100 rupees, or sometimes the name of the item. So in that way, he is going to authorize you by giving a token from that restaurant. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to take the token because you have already paid for it. Then you have to go to the serving area, and you have to show that token to them. Then accordingly they will give you whatever the ordered snack item to you. Ready? So in that way, the bearer token is nothing but a simplified example of authenticating that you have done your part and use this particular piece of thing so that you can be avoided from re-authenticating from yourself. So in that way, I am parallelly explaining things. Okay, once you have paid the bill, you don't have to again go to the counter and again go to the serving area, wherein to some waiter you don't have to say I have already paid, or you have to show something as a proof or as an evidence. So simply what you can show is the authenticated mechanism of the token given by that same restaurant. So in that way, the bearer is nothing but a kind of a piece of thing where you can reuse that for later on authenticating again and again for a number of times. Okay. So protocol defines two types of tokens and used in the process. One is access token. These are credentials required to access the protected resources, represents the grant's scope, duration, and other attributes granted by the authorization grant. Okay, suppose access token means this is actually given by the first time, and as soon as you got that token, you are going to have the some limited, like these are it represents grants, scope, duration, and other attributes. It is not like that. You can pay one day, and after 2 days you can go back to the same restaurant and again show that particular token, because on that token, you are going to have the date printed on it, and they will cross it out, otherwise they will simply tear it off. Okay, so anything can happen. Suppose you go to the cinema theaters, okay, so wherein you have to first of all buy the ticket, and then on the gate you have to show your ticket. Then what he does, the gatekeeper will simply turn away your ticket and only let you inside after tearing your that particular ticket. Okay, so that is only for the one time. It is not like that you have permanently got the access to that the movie theater. Okay, so in that way it is having a limited scope, limited duration, and as well as other attributes granted by the authorization grant. It depends on how authorization grants can be made. So the scopes, duration, the granularity, everything can be controlled uh, by using this, by having these kind of access tokens. And reference tokens are nothing but reference tokens are credentials used to obtain access tokens. Reference tokens are issued to the client by the authorization server and are used to obtain a new access token. Suppose access token is going to have a 3 hours or some 20 minutes duration. After 20 minutes, it is going to be expired. So what you have to do is, before the expiry of this access token, automatically the fresh request to be made to get a new token, and that is called as a refresh token. So by using these refresh tokens, you are going to authorize again by the same server, and you are going to get a new access token. So that is going to give a new access token, but the request is being made by the same customer, and it is for the extension of this the authentication. This provides the extension of the authentication that you want to have for some extra time of for some 2 hours or some like in that way. So in that way, We can have the refresh tokens. They are nothing but the new token that is being generated by the authorization server. And when the current access token becomes invalid, expires, it is automatically getting refreshed and it is going to get a new token. And again, after timeout, after some 30 minutes or some 2 hours, again it automatically can able to request for the new token that is called as the refresh token, and you are going to get a new access token, and the previous access token will be invalidated by the authorization server. So in that way, the tokens can be rolled on one by one till you not going to get your purpose fulfilled. Okay, so you can have your refresh tokens repeated for a number of for functionalities. So normally when you log into the mobile apps, like you are using the Paytm or maybe you are using the Amazon.com. So these kind of refresh tokens are being maintained, and accordingly you are not going to validate yourself again and again. Okay, so if you are not long ago, if you have used before maybe some 2 months back, 3 months back, then only you will be redirected to log in again and again. So that is the first time access token. But later on, whenever you are frequently using that application, like 3 days or a couple of times in a given week, then accordingly it will generate a refresh token, and you are going to validate without sending the login credentials from your side to the authorization server. So entirely it is based on the previous access token. It is going to be validated, and accordingly it is going to release the new refresh tokens. After the tokens, because tokens are very important, tokens are actually highly used in the mobile application development or in web services or every kind of nowadays even websites are using the tokens. Okay, so token generation is by default used in all the industrial applications. So we need to have a clear understanding on tokens. So they are called as JWT. So JWT tokens are very common these days. And if you have devised any mobile application, you might have come across of these tokens in either one or in another way. So then grant types. Grant is credential which represents owner's authorization and used by client to access owner's protected resources. So that means simple, it is simple to understand. It represents owner's authorization and it is being used by the client to access. Suppose I am saying that go and get a coffee for me. So then you are going to take the cash from me and you are going to the counter and accordingly bring in the coffee. So in that way we can understand. Okay. So the grant is simply nothing, a way of communicating the things so that you are actually authorized to get my protected resources. Okay, so to get my protected resources, so they can be defined in different specifications. One is authorization code, one is implicit, one is resource owner password credentials and client credentials. These are somewhat typical to understand actually. We will have exclusive understanding on these. Authorization code, which actually suited for the server side clients. Then implicit means user agents are generally used for the implicit calling of the authentication credentials. Then resource owner password credentials. So this is generally used while we are using the mobile application, and client credentials. So there are some clear-cut differences between the grant types. Okay, so we will come to know what all they about. Okay, so we will soon come to them. Then endpoints. Endpoints are the URIs which client uses to make requests. Protocol supports following authorization server endpoints. Authorization endpoint used by the client to obtain resource authorization from the resource owner. This is nothing but an API. Okay, authorization endpoint is nothing but the API. So to which you are going to make a request, and accordingly that API functionality is getting executed, and whatever the program that is written in that API endpoint is going to be executed, and accordingly the resources will be released. Then token endpoint used by the client to retrieve access or refresh token. So token endpoints are exclusively for dealing with the endpoint is nothing but the API. Okay, so they are nothing but the URIs. That means uniform resource identifiers or URLs. Okay, URL means like the uniformity that is uniqueness that is there in the domain false. So every piece of URL is identified in a unique way, and they are nothing but the endpoints. So the token endpoints are exclusively dealing with the access tokens, or it can be using with the refresh tokens. Then redirection endpoint. Authorization server process uses the endpoint to redirect after authorization. Suppose you are already logged into your website, and after some brief timeout, you are still on that page. But as soon as you have clicked on a new link, or you are going to click a button, you might have seen several times the website is redirected to the login page. So this is what this redirection endpoint is actually called. Okay, so the app, even the mobile app, maybe even the Amazon may be not giving you the product information. It is simply redirecting to the login page, so that you have to authorize yourself, authenticate yourself again. Okay, so these are some different endpoints. One is authorization endpoint, one is token endpoint, and one is redirection endpoint. And authorization flows, there are some different flows which we have just discussed. One is server side web application flow, user agent application flow, resource owner password flow, and client credentials flow. And then first we will see this client registration. OAuth requires clients to register with the authorization server before making any API requests. Okay, so suppose you are going to create a mashup, or you are going to create a third-party resource like a printfast.com. Then first of all, the printfast.com, what it has to do is it has to register with the authorization server before making any API request, because as a customer you are going to use the printfast.com, and printfast.com is not the actual customer to the Instagram. So thereby it has to first of all identify itself, so that authorization server will be allowing the resources on behalf of the customers. It is very complex to understand, as well as it is very important also to understand these things. So the printfast.com is actually first of all register with the maybe the facebook.com or the instagram.com or youtube.com before making any API requests. That is the first necessity. Then secondly, protocol leaves the registration mechanism open to API provider as part of the registration. And now OAuth expects the client type. The client type means, so there are some different ways of doing the connection, and then what are the redirection URLs, and then any other information required by the API. Okay, so all these are actually expected, so that to have the seamless integration of the resource owner shipped to the resource provider and authorization server. Then successful registration results in issuance of the credentials. So now the client registration is actually given with these credentials. That means the printfast.com is now going to have one unique ID and password. Okay, so it is going to use that unique ID and password to that authorization server whenever it is making any request on behalf of the customer. So now prerequisites for the authorization. So this is the first requirement. Client has to go through with the authorization server registration. Okay, without it we cannot even if you have done some projects, if you want to access the Google Maps or some Google Maps or some distance identifiers, first of all you have to register with the Google services, Google Map services. Then Google Map services will provide the client ID and client secret. Then your application will be using those credentials, so that you are getting the data from the Google. So that is the natural part of implementing, because the google.com will not rely anything until unless it is not registered with them. So similar thing we are doing in this client registration. Then prerequisites for the authorization: register application, that can be the Facebook, so this is the URL, and for the Google this is the URL, Twitter, LinkedIn, maybe Instagram. So many apps are there, Amazon. So first of all, you have to register with the authorization provider, and then if you suppose that this is the example for the Facebook. First of all, developers need to register on the Facebook. Okay, so you can provide the name of the app, then uh, you can see the name of the app is there, then whether you want to host it freely. So it depends on how the Facebook or any other platform is actually providing. So it depends from one application to another application in a different way. So it is not similar to each kind of application. Like Instagram will be having different interface, LinkedIn will be having some different interface. So in that way, they will be having some unique implementations. Then after that, after registration, we can see there is a app ID and app secret has been given. This is the ID and this is the credentials actually. So these credentials are given by the Facebook. So this is the client. TechNext is the client. So to the TechNext, they have given this with the app ID and app secret code. Okay. So then you can configure with your own information along with this, and you are going to provide what is the login for your website. So you can use like this is the domain name, and whenever any user is clicking on the Facebook icon, it is going to redirect to this site URL. So in that way, you are going to explain the things to the facebook.com. Then what it is doing, it is creating the complete flow to get the access by the Facebook profiles or any other information, which is going to be validated by the Facebook only, not by the TechNext. Okay, so the TechNext is the third-party resource provider, and Facebook is the resource provider. Okay, so this is the resource provider, and TechNext is the client. And similarly, Google APIs can also be like integrated in the same way. So you have to first of all register with the code.google.com. Then this is the similar. This is the interface which is available for the Google. You will be writing the product name, and then you are going to create some settings, whether you are going to create a web application or you are going to create a web service. Okay, or you are going to create an iOS or Android application. So the type of client categorization will be making available to the Google, and then you are going to define the URL also. So this is the redirection URL like we have seen with the Facebook. So after registering with this details, uh, now the Google is going to give back with these essential things. One is client ID and the client secret. Okay, then one is redirection URL. So these three are the common if you are using any kind of Google, Facebook, Twitter, or any other application on the internet. Okay, then different ways to do the authorization. We are going to exclusively deal with these types. First one is authorization code grant. Second one is implicit grant. Then resource owner password credentials grant and client credentials grant. We will see one by one. Authorization code grant. So grant types are also important. In which case you have to take either of these, you have to decide, and before deciding you have to know the fundamentals of the different types of grants are available in the authorization. So authorization code grant. So what is this? It should be used when the client is a web server. So it is very clear. Suppose you are making a service using a web server. Okay, so that means you are like working on a printfast.com or similar application you are going to create. So there is a scenario that is also given. A website wants to obtain information about your Google profile. You are redirected by the client to the authorization server. So the same thing has been done in the printfast.com example. If you authorize the access, the authorization server sends an authorization code to the client in the callback response. Then this code is exchanged against an access token between the client and authorization server. And then finally, the website is now able to use this access token to query the resource server. So exactly what we have seen with the printfast.com. So these are the exact steps that is actually being taken place for this grant type called as authorization code grant. So you never see the access token. Okay, so it will be stored by the website. Google also sends other information with the access token, such as the token lifetime and eventuality of a refresh token. Eventuality means in which cases the validity of the token will be removed. So then this is the ideal scenario and the safer one, because the access token is not passed on to the client side. Okay, because printfast.com has never got the actual token, rather the token was generated by the Instagram, and Instagram itself used those tokens, and again it has given the resources to the printfast.com. So thereby client will not be seeing the tokens available to them. So this is the best way of doing the things without exposing your credentials or even the tokens to the clients. So printfast.com cannot have the tokens available with them. So thereby they cannot make a fresh request using your token. So that means first of all you have granted the permission to them, and they could not get hold of the token. So thereby they cannot do anything further on the given token by the authorization server. So thereby the limitation, the controlling of your account is perfectly being maintained. So this is what this authorization code grant actually does. So this particular slide we already discussed in the previous example also. The same flow is being taken in the authorization code grant. First of all, the request is being made to the resource owner. Authorization grant will be available to the using the grant, it will make the request to the authorization server, and now the token actually it is not released to the client. Now in the case of the Instagram, it is actually used by the, because the authorization server as well as the resource server are same. Okay, so thereby it is actually using the tokens and it is giving back the protected resources. So in that way it is going to work for the authorization code grant. Then we will see a live example in this for this authorization code grant. So Facebook authorization code grant we have already set up, and everything we can see, like what is the URL, what is the client ID, what is the redirection URL. Okay, so everything we are actually getting hold. Then client ID is the ID of the client app. So that is first time registration, it will give the client ID as well as the secret key also. Then redirect URI. Suppose it is not authorized, the protected resource is requires some authentication. This is what it will check for the redirection of the incoming request. Then scope, permissions allowed by the user. State, something to pass back to the redirect URI. So the redirect URI can be reverted back, so that accordingly, if the user wants to see the profile information, exactly the profile information will be given back to the user. So in that way we can have the information, and after using that information, the app is going to use the, you can see, use the state and code, everything in the URL, and now the state is actually being sent, and authorization grant code is also it is actually converted into base 64. Then it is actually exchanged for the access token, and then after getting that access token, this is the token. Okay, so the token is a very big string, so nobody can easily tamper with that, and it says the expiry, what is the expiry time and everything. So this access token is being utilized so that to get the resource from the Instagram or from this Facebook. Okay, so in that way everything is actually integrated from this development environment given by the Facebook. So important thing to understand is this step is performed at the server side, because you need to use your client ID and client secret along with the authorization code you just received to gain access code. Okay, so the access code is nothing but the access token. And finally, by using this access token, we can get the protect resources. Okay. So